So, I figured I would talk a bit about New World. I am currently probably the most hated player on my server, and I know why that is. One, I am basically more or less the only good tank who knows how to play tank on my server, and most people aren't very experienced in that against facing tanks. So I usually win, and people don't like that. They're not like many of the people aren't used to losing, and I mean that's fine, but that's one of the reasons. The other reason is I'm extremely toxic. So like when people lose and they're mad, then I agitate them and they get even more mad. And like I never really mean anything bad, but it's like just fun because people take it so personally. But yeah, that's about me and New World. And I'm just gonna talk about me in the sense of gaming and the state of New World currently. Because New World has been my current MMO the past, I don't know, 2 years maybe. It's my on and off MMO that I come back and play and then I quit. And my main game genre are MMOs. Like, I enjoy having a character and do huge multiplayer fights. I like medieval weapons and all that stuff. So it's my type of game mostly. Uh, excuse me. I just want a little bit about me before I start criticizing New World and talking about the problems about New World. So I have played many MMOs in the past. I was rank number 1 Berserker in Europe in the game Continent of the Nine, C9. And I was rank number 1 in 144 bracket in Decaron. I was the highest skill gap Azure Knight, where I had like my own school and followers who basically paid me to teach them the game. I've been 2000 rating in World of Warcraft back in I think it was Cataclysm, so it was pretty long ago, but yeah. And I'm doing pretty well basically in PvP in every MMO I put my hands down on and take the time to play. I'm not much for a PvEer. The only PvE MMO I've really enjoyed would be Black Desert. And the only reason I'm not very into Black Desert is because it's extremely grindy. Like, you need to invest tons and tons of time and a lot of money to gear up to the point where you can PvP properly. And it's just not... that's why I quit retail. That's why I only play classic. That's why I like New World, because in New World you can gear up pretty easily. It's not that very gear dependent. And yeah, so I'm a pretty well-versed gamer when it comes, especially when it comes to MMOs. I'd say my weak point is probably shooters due to having shaky hand syndrome. But there are shooters I enjoy. Anyhow, about New World. New World is such a open, versatile, unique game where it has so much freedom to where you can do basically whatever you want. And that comes in basically every regard. If you want, the way you level up, you can level up by just killing monsters, or you can just do PvE like grinding or node collecting. You can be like a farmer. You can level up through PvP. Like, you choose your way, your path. And when New World first came out, the game was like it was so free. You could do whatever you want, and everything had a strong side, everything had a weak side. When I talk about PvP, that is. I remember people used to play light mostly only with range weapons, because it was like for the mobility and for the damage. And the range weapons and light users, they destroyed the bruisers. And the bruisers destroyed the tanks. And the tanks who were in heavy with shields and stuff, they destroyed the rangers. Like, a ranger in light couldn't do much against like a heavy user, while a heavy user couldn't do much against a bruiser, and a bruiser couldn't do much against a bow user. Now, of course, skill mattered, and of course there was never a certainty. Like, but if both parties played perfectly. They had like a strong side and a weak side. Today, the strong side and weak side don't really exist. Basically, if you play in light armor and you use range weapons, you have no... The only thing that can really kill you on an equal skill is another light armor range user. And I'm gonna go into why it's become that later. But that's made basically playing melee, if you're a bruiser or tank, outside of maybe wars, it's kinda pointless. Like, there's no real way or reason for you to be viable. If you go into OPR, you're just gonna be gunned down. Anyone will, if you're heavy like I am, I'm a heavy enjoyer. If you use a shield, anyone who knows how to play the game is using like a spear and a ranged weapon, or like the rapier and a ranged weapon. They know how to get past your shield, and when they do, it's over, because the axe, the warhammer, and the greatsword have no answer, and they can't really do anything against the bow or the fire staff or like the blunderbuss even. Like, there's not much you can do against those weapons. You're gonna lose all your health before you manage to get even one hit in, and it's just not very balanced. And what used to counter it again was shield and sword, and like being in heavy, like using a heavy shield. You would be able to block all the incoming attacks, and you would when you finally catch them, you CC them and you combo them to death. That used to be the counterplay for melee against range, and that's still hard to do. It's not something you can just do on a whim. It still kind of favors the range user, because as if you want to do a stun combo, you need to land either shield rush or bash on the shield and sword. And if you're a good player, if you're a good bow player, you can just look back. Like, let's say I'm kiting right now, I'm playing range. You just look back and keep the enemy in vision, and when you see them landing up like leap strike, or when you see them doing shield bow, you just press shift. It's that easy. Oh, he's doing the animation? I press shift. And now you're safe. They can't CC you, they can't combo you. Bash has a like 30-second cooldown, and you're on the winning side again. However, and here's the however part, it's so easy to play range and fire staff, and it's so OP, and majority is playing it, and that means there are not enough heavy users, shield users, and bruisers that play those specs, so people don't even know that. Most people who play bow, they play like this. They're like being chased, and they turn around and shoot, and they run, they don't really see, and they get hit by a leap strike, or they like stand in the face and try to shoot with a bow. Again, I have a bow here. Wait, I'm gonna kill these and I'm gonna demonstrate to all of you how most people play range today. So here, let's see, can I change my weapon? Here we go. So this is how people play bow. It's like, where's the pig? Oh no, I got hit by a bash. Bash OP. While they should actually play like this. And then, you know, they keep them in range. Let's see the pig come close. And then, just like that, just keep them in vision. But most people don't do that. They are too unexperienced. They haven't played. Like, I haven't played a bow. I'm not good with the bow. I am not good with the bow. But I've been dabbling with it. It's so funny. The bow is so OP that this is gonna be my build in Season 4. I'm gonna be running shield and sword, full heavy, with the lightning bow. Because I have the lightning elements and the rune glass and everything. So I have a lightning setup for my hammer. And with the new bow, I'm just gonna use the bow. And I've been dabbling with it. I have not much experience using the bow. And still, I perform almost the same as when I use my hammer, which I've been using for years, like since the game came out. And I can just put on a bow, and like in OPR the bow is better. In 3v3, if you have a decent team, the bow I perform better. And that's like with a shaky hand syndrome, and I barely even play the weapon. It's like, and people tell you that heavy is OP and that hammers are OP and all that. It's just people that are noobs. Anyway, Why is the game like this? Why has the game devolved into basically everyone playing Fire Staff with Great Axe or like bow plus a Void Gauntlet? Why is the game like that? Well, what are the most popular games the past 10 years? We have Elden Ring and we have Fortnite. And what is New World if you play it with a medium, no, not medium, if you play it in medium, medium, in light weight and with range weapons, it becomes like this mixture of both Fortnite and Elden Ring. That's why it's so popular, because those games are popular, and majority likes that playstyle. Many people like that playstyle. I'd say whenever you go OPR, 70 to 80% are playing that. Whenever you queue Arena, you might see 1 or 2 melee people or maybe 1 healer, but the rest are playing like bow or fire staff or some kind of ranged weapon. It's because they like Fortnite and they like Elden Ring, you know? And that's where we're at. That's why those weapons are so broken and the devs play them too. They've been pretty open about what they play and what they don't play with. And I don't think the devs have played in heavy with shield and sword, like doing PvP or anything like that a single time, because there's a bug currently where if you use the shield and you use 2 potions, I don't know if I can replicate it. Let's see here. If you use 2 potions or something like that. Yeah, there. You unequip your weapons. And this has been here. This is a bug that has been here since the expansion came out. And yeah, it's obvious, it's clear that the devs have not playtested these weapons because they don't play them. They only play the range weapons. And that's why they've, not only that, but they've implemented more ways where melee now can't do anything to kill a ranged user. Because let's take a look at here. The 300 dex perk, swapping weapons will now cleanse all stuns and roots and crowd controls. Meaning, if you're a bow player, and you know how to play, let's say you're an average, decent bow player, and you play against a heavy user, you cannot lose. You literally can't lose. You have to play really, really badly and mess up so much, and to even have any chance of losing, like, because bash, look at this, the only thing a melee user can do, they can use bash, and then they can do a combo, and it has 24 seconds CD. 24 seconds, that's basically when you can do bash, they can cleanse it. Because the attribute one is 30-second cooldown. So if you do bash, you cleanse it. The next bash you will have the cooldown back, you can cleanse it. And there's no counterplay. Like, there is no counterplay a melee user have against someone who uses dexterity range weapons. And I think this problem is not only for the range weapons. I think having a cleanse that basically invalidates many playstyles is just damaging for the game altogether. But that's the state we're at. The devs find it fine, and they keep nerfing. We had another issues. So melee has been very boring to play. There's not many ways melee can deal with range, but they had some things. When the expansion came out, we had Ankh and Shirking Heals. It made you, basically, if you iframe jumped and attacked perfectly, you would get a burst of heal back. It was like using a free potion. You'd get like between 3 to 4k HP, and it was very, very useful against range users, because the problem with range is they take your HP down to like 50% before you even reach them, before you even can fight them. And with Shirking Heals, with the healing thing that they had, basically you could return portion of that health. So instead of you being down at like 50% before you can start fighting them, you would be down at like maybe 70 or 80. So it was a little bit more fair. However, that was, noobs, the ranged noob scrubs, they couldn't really deal with that. And so they had to nerf it to keep the ranged users overpowered and not have any counterplay. And now healing is useless, so a lot of melee players built Shirking Heals and healing sets, and they were like becoming relevant again. Like OPR was becoming to be like, it was like going from 80% range users down to like 60, 65. Like there were still more, but you could still see bruisers, and that was a huge no-no, you know, because bruisers are not supposed to be viable. And so they removed that, so now healing is shit again. So if you spent like months crafting a healing set, congratulations, it's now basically useless. And there was also an item, because there's so many cleanse mechanics. They have freedom. They have freedom is a perk you can put on your gear that makes it so that CC expires faster, and most CC is very short. So if you look at like let's see here, where's Stammer? If you look at Shockwave lasts for 2 seconds. So if you had like 2 pieces freedom, that was down to like 1 second, and 1 second doesn't let you really do anything with CC. Yeah. Bad piggy. So yeah, they removed the stopwatch and reworked it to increase it by what was it? They added 1 instant second to it. It used to be stopwatch was 100% stun duration increase and 5% damage reduction. So basically Shockwave went to 4 seconds, Bash went to 6 seconds. And I can agree that Bash 6 seconds was a bit long. But the other CC like Vault Kick and Shockwave were completely fair and manageable, considering how much cleansing mechanics and ways people have to deal with stuns. But again, too many noobs, too many range users didn't even... Most people that complain about it, they didn't even know that... They don't even know that freedom exists. They don't know that they can cleanse themselves. They don't even know that there's a heart rune that cleanses CC. They don't know about the tab. You can just tab and you're immune to CC. If you use an ice gauntlet with the entomb, that cleanses CC too. So both mages and bow users both have ways to remove CC entirely. So basically, yeah, they reworked it and now CC is back to being dog shit and almost unusable. And it's like, it's such a spite move also. Not only, let's see here, not only did they nerf this stun duration, they also increased the damage debuff by 5%. Like the heavy users are already, they're already so gathered, and the bruisers too, and everyone who runs CC is already so gathered. Now it's like even more useless. So it's very sad to see. It's very sad to see how unexperienced the developers are and how stupid the community is. And about the community, these people are so insanely biased and annoying, and they want their build, their range, chicken, light armor, Fortnite build to be broken so badly that they refuse to acknowledge some of the issues. Like, I've been on the Discord and I posted some ideas on how to fix the problems. And guess what? I got banned. Why? Because they saw it as a problematic that I point out the number, because all I did was basically post numbers, and then when people attacked me and harassed me, and I told them like, look, the numbers don't lie, you're just wrong, you're not very wise. And then they banned me. I'm pretty sure all the people that were like being really rude and toxic against a very non-aggressive post is they're all fine and still in the server. So that's fun. So I did the same thing on Steam, and guess what? Banned there too. Banned everywhere. But yeah, so you're not allowed to talk about these things, and if you do, you're gonna have so many people being like, dude, light is so bad, dude, ranged isn't OP, and then when you look at what they play light and range, like everyone else. And that's the thing with MMOs. People cater towards what is meta, what is the strongest. If someone plays Arena, if you play OPR, you want to get kills, you want to win. And what do you do then? You play the strongest thing. At least 80 to 90% of the player base in every OPR play ranged. What does that tell you? You don't need anything else. Just look at reality. Look at the facts. Look at what people choose to do. They play that because it's the most strongest. The only place heavy and bruisers have a spot is kinda in wars to hold down positions. And even then it's not really the heavy and the bruisers that do that much. They don't really even use heavy and bruiser that much. I've seen so many people use light, and it's more about the healers and the magic, the ice field, the void gauntlet fields, the rain of fire from the fire staff. Those things are the ones that really decimate the control points. So it's really sad to see. It's really sad to see that the game is declining like this, that there's such an anti-melee bias. And that was what made me quit the game the first time, because I've quit the game twice now. When I first played the game, it was fine, like I said before in the beginning of this little kind of review, you can say. I was said in the first, what was it? First half year or a year, I won, I think it was 3 1 versus 1 tournaments in a row. And then they started like doing these weird ass changes. They started nerfing CC, they added freedom, you could no longer play as a tank. I remember it's like there's nothing you can do if you play heavy with sword and shield and hammer. And back then they didn't have stopwatch and many of the things they have now. I'm talking about back then, but back then there was nothing you could do. And it was just very boring, and I didn't want to really be forced, because that's what it feels like. You feel forced to play something you don't want to play. And I didn't like that, so I quit the game. I came back on Brimstone Sands, and the game was kinda the same, but I kinda made it, I still kinda wanted to, I kinda made it work. I toughened out all the annoying shit, and it was still kinda manageable. Because there was no, the only way people could cleanse themselves was with freedom, and with, let's hear, they have freedom and they had a heart rune that cleanses them, and that was like still annoying, but you could kind of manage that. I don't mind there being one cleanse. The heart rune cleanse is fine. And like freedom could be fine if it didn't completely invalidate all CC, but yeah, it was still annoying. It was very annoying. And now Brimstone Sand, no, not Brimstone, this new Angry Earth update. It's such a abysmal, painful process. And every year with every patch they do where they nerf melee and buff ranged, you see less and less melee and more range. Yeah, I see fire staff users in heavy more than I see like people playing hammer and sword and shield in heavy. Like a fire staff user can roll full heavy, he can put on flamethrower, and he can stand in any bruisers or light assassins or any heavy tank's face and win by just holding down the flamethrower. If they're both equal gear, the fire stuff will destroy the melee. Now, isn't that some kind of insanity where mages are so broken, where you can just put on heavy gear, you can play them in a melee sense. You can basically play them like a bruiser and outperform the actual bruisers. But that's where we're at. That's the problem with the game. Yeah. And most of the melee weapons are so shit. Let's go through some melee weapons. Look here, my weapon master. I played every single weapon a fair amount of bits. So you can't tell me I haven't played the game. I've played every single one. I've tried all the abilities. Let's look here. A reverse stab. It used to be a stagger. They removed the stagger because I have no idea why. Leaping strike. You used to be able to chain leaping strike into bash to be able to deal with ranged users, with bow users, because there was no counterplay. So originally you could leaping strike into bash and you could punish them with a CC combo that took like 50% of their health. You used to be able to do that. Not anymore. Now they changed it, so it's just a short stagger. Bash is kind of the same, but look at the damage. 50% damage on bash. That is, you have to stand right in front of a person to land it. It has almost 1 second animation. It's like almost 1 second cast animation before it lands. So you can't dodge it. If you hold W and just run away from someone who's like in close range, there's no way you can bash someone. So why is it 50% damage? It's useless. Shield charge is fine. Shield rush is fine. Let's see here. More of the melee weapons. Hammer. Hammer has been so disgustingly nerfed into oblivion. So, let's go. Armor break. This is the only good hammer ability. I'll give them that. Hammer has one good ability, and that is armor break. It's very fast. It's almost instant. You can chain it with a charged attack to make 2 quick attacks. Basically, it's good against shield users. So if you're like a light assassin and you struggle with fighting tanks, you can run armor breaker and you can basically destroy all tanks. It's very easy if you know how. But let's look at Mighty Gavel. Mighty Gavel is the signature move for the damage set, and Mighty Gavel deals less damage than a fully charged attack. So this is basically a dead ability. No one should run Mighty Gavel. It does nothing. It's literally useless. You can spam heavy attacks and they're much more efficient. They do more damage and more useful. Now here is the most funny part. Wrecking Ball. Everyone knows Wrecking Ball. That's the one thing you can do with the hammer to make it kind of viable. You used to be able to do Wrecking Ball into Bash, and then Wrecking Ball into Shockwave, and then you could do Gavel or Armor Breaker or whatever you wanted. And that was like your little chain. So when you finally managed to catch someone, you had like a little window of damage you could do. However, they nerfed the damage on it 3 times. It was like from 120 down to 100 down to 90 or something like that. And now the damage, it's less than a normal auto attack. So it's hard to land. It has a very long wind-up time. It's well animated. And you basically do no damage. And not only that, on top of it all, they've added a root. So when you do the ability, you can no longer do Shockwave afterwards. So it's completely useless. The only thing you can do after Wrecking Ball is a light attack. And it's a dead ability. I used to run Clear Out Shockwave into Wrecking Ball. And what I used to do was I used to Clear Out, Shockwave, Wrecking Ball. It was Shockwave, Wrecking Ball, or was it? I don't even remember shit. But I used to run Wrecking Ball. I had to remove it because it's like completely... I haven't used it in so long. Let's see here. Shockwave is an absolute disgrace of an ability. It takes 2 seconds. It has a 2-second casting animation. It strikes 1 time and it stuns for 2 seconds. This is mathematically the most dumbest skill in the game. It does half of an auto attack. It stuns for 2 seconds, which is again 1, cleansable. 2, if you use freedom, it's down to like if you run full freedom, it's 0.50 seconds. So you don't even notice it. Like if someone lands Shockwave and you're full freedom, you don't even notice the stun. And it's so well animated. It's impossible to land Shockwave unless you use something else first. Like you have to Wrecking Ball into Shockwave to make Shockwave connect. But you can't do that anymore because they nerfed it. So what you have to do now is you have to do Shield Bash, and then you can do Clear Out, and then you can do Shockwave. But sometimes it's bugged. You can't even do that every time. Sometimes Clear Out into Shockwave doesn't work. So basically Shockwave is a very shitty ability. It doesn't do much. It does no damage. I don't understand. I look at this, I don't understand. First of all, the damage should be way more. I would say the damage should be around 140. 140% weapon damage should be the baseline on the hammer. Because the hammer hits... All these abilities only hit 1 time. The hammer is pure strength. It's slow, it's clunky. It's supposed to be the I hit you 1 time but for a lot of damage weapon. And 60% is disgusting. It should be at least 140 weapon damage, first of all. Secondly, the stun should be 3 seconds unless they change how freedom works, unless they change how cleansing works. It needs to be at least 3 seconds. And if not any of that, they should speed up. If they want to keep it like this, they should speed up the animation so it's almost instant. Because as it is right now, it's absolutely a joke. Let's see here. Let's put it on, show you all for those that... Some people have probably never even seen it. So look at this. It's impossible to land that. It's impossible. Everyone will either block it or just dodge it. Because it's so well telegraphed and so slow. And the sound is so loud too. You hear the charge up. Like, it's so easy to dodge. There's no reason for it to be this bad. Clear out is fine. I think clear out is fine. It could use a little bit more damage. Again, I'd say 120, 130 weapon damage maybe. However, Path of Destiny is another one. It's even worse than Shockwave because it's not even a stun. It hits in a row, so it has a huge range. However, they nerfed the cast time on it, so it's completely... Like, it's so slow that you can either block it or you can just jump over it or like iframe it. It's so easy. It does no damage. And it does like a stagger for a split second. And it's not even in the ability, it's a perk. You can make it be a stagger. It does nothing. It just does nothing. And since all the weapon abilities do so low damage, the healing perk, heal for 35% of the damage, it heals nothing. It heals like 300 most of the time. It's like a 300 heal, maybe 400. If you're affected by anti-healing, it's like 200, 100 maybe. You do no damage with the hammer. It's a very disgrace. It's a huge disgrace. Greatsword is like the best melee weapon, I'd say. You could remove the Great Axe and the Warhammer and just like... The Greatsword does everything but better. It has a short root, it has stagger and CC, it's healing, it has all damage immunity, it has a block, it has triple strike, it has more CC, anti-healing, it has gap closer. That also you can have a perk on that cleanses you from roots. Like, it has everything. The Greatsword does what the hammer is supposed to do when it comes to damage, because the sword does way more damage than the hammer does on auto attacks and on abilities. And also the Greatsword has some very good AoEs. I'd say they are on the par of the Great Axe. The Great Axe probably has a little bit better AoEs. I think Gravity Vel and Maelstrom are still better than the Relentless Lush and Roaring Uproar and the Down Smash on Skyward. Sure, but it's not by much. It's not by much. And considering the amount of damage and utility that the Greatsword has, like, you really don't need the axe. Let's go over the axe. So, you have the charge. When you use the charge, it roots you in place. So, sure, you gap close a little bit. You can gap close, and if you land attack, then it's good. But if you don't land attack, then you're rooted at the end, so it's not really that great. Reap is good, but it roots you in place for like 3 seconds, where like if you fight a fire staff and you miss the reap, they can just turn around and do a pillar and a fireball before your animation is even over and you're basically dead. Execute. Execute is basically what Gavel should be. the side ability on the axe is better than the Gavel on the hammer tree. So this is the only ability I think is good on this tree, actually. Whirlwind's very trash, does no damage. It's good for gap closing maybe, but that's about it. Maelstrom is a good ability, so I have no complaints about it. It sucks people in, it does damage, it's great. And Gravity Well is an amazing ability, but I think that the damage has been too nerfed on it. Because it's not easy to land and you can just run out of it. So it should be doing more for... Like, if you get hit by Gravity Well and you misplay and you're kind of stuck in it, should do more. Like, the axe should have something going for it. So right now it doesn't really have anything going for it. And again, the axe used to be good, but they nerfed the auto attack range. despite all the good, like back then, the Great Axe had a bigger attack range, and too many bad bow players cried about it, and so they nerfed it. And now the Great Axe, like the auto attacks, are the worst in the entire game. I'm not even joking. It's the worst auto attacks in the entire game. It's worse than the hatchet. So yeah, and again, back then, even the bow users, the good bow users and the good mages, they said, don't do this nerf, don't do it. It's already fair. Like we're winning. It's like 50-50 in win rate. Like the axe users and the mage users, we're kind of equal. Don't do this nerf, and they did it. And now then axe became dog shit. It's basically only used for point wars in OPR and in wars. You use it just to clump people up. So what people do is they clump people up with Gravwell, and then they use Maelstrom, and then they do either Reap or they use Charge for utilities or just utilities. And that's about it. It's a useless weapon. Spear is really good right now. And it's good because it's one of the weapons that range users use. It's also one of the few weapons you can use to counter the ranged. If you use Scorpion and you use the Javelin, you can hook range users to you. That's why I'd say Spear is the most used melee weapon in the game right now. You have Spear. Rapier is also something that range users use. And weapons I basically never see is Hammer. I never see Hammer. Hatchet, I never see Hatchet either. Musket has been destroyed. I thought that Musket was fine the way it was before. However, too many people used it in OPR, and back then in OPR it was very OP. But they should have just made it so that in OPR the damage is lower, or they should have made it so that there's only a set amount of weapons in each team. Like only 5 bows, only 5 muskets allowed, only 5 this, 5 that, 5 fire staffs. Like make a limit. And sadly, everyone played musket, so they nerfed it into the ground, and now you never see musket. So weapons that are absolute shit: hammer, number 1. Number 2, musket. Number 3, hatchet. Let's see here. Number 4, probably great axe. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's about it. Everything else is kind of viable. The sword and shield is still. This is the you must use sword and shield, and you must use these 3 perks. You can't use a reverse stab. You can't use whirlwind blade. You can't use defender's evolve. You need to use these 3 to be able to deal with range users. And even with these 3, it's not much you can do if they know how to play. Yeah, so the sword and shield is a must. It's a very good spear. The javelin, you have to use the javelin. And then you can use whatever. All of these are good. Like you can use vault kick is fine if you have stopwatch. Skewer is good. It's a gap closer, applies bleed, does a lot of damage. Perforate tracks really well. It's probably the best tracking ability in the game for melee. Cyclone heals is huge AoE, does good damage. Sweep is the best CC because it's not a CC, it's a knockdown, which is why this is the best CC in the game probably. The flail is it's like a life staff, so it doesn't need to be the best at anything, but it's very good, it's useful. And greatsword is great. The bow is broken beyond belief, the blunderbuss is broken beyond belief. These 2 need like hotfix emergency nerfs in my opinion. The fire staff is fine, it just needs a damage tuning. Like, I don't mean everything, just the fireball and the pillar should be nerfed. Because the pillar is instant AoE undodgeable ability. Like, you can't dodge it. If someone knows how to use it, you can't dodge it. And it shouldn't do that as much damage. It does like 7k crits on tanks. It's insane. And fireball is basically the same, but if you must be melee. If you're in someone's face and you use fireball, it's instant. You can't dodge it or anything. You can't react to it, really. So it's too much damage for how easy they are to use. That's my problem with the fire staff. Life staff, I think life staff is fine. I mean, I think the healing is a bit too high. But then again, it could just be that they should improve the healing debuffs. Like they should just, anti-healing should be stronger. I don't think they should nerf healing in itself. Ice Gauntlet is fine outside of Tomb cleansing you. I don't think mages should have a cleanse. It's like an instant heal cleanse that makes you, it's basically, this ability is all of this combined. It's kind of stupid. That's the only problem with the Ice Gauntlet. Everything else is fine. The Void Gauntlet is fine as long as you don't pair it with a bow. Because what people do now is they use Tether with Petrifying Scream and Orb of Decay. So they use these 3 abilities and they don't use the Void Gauntlet other than only those 3 abilities. And what that basically does, it makes it impossible for melee to catch up to you and to fight you. So that should be changed. I think they should change Tether. They should probably just rework this completely. And they should make it so you can block Orb. Like if you're using a shield, you should be able to block it. Other than that, it's very fine. I don't have any problem with Void Gauntlet in itself. So yeah, that's the weapon review, game review, and basically if you want to play New World right now, you better play Bow or Fire Staff or Blunderbuss in light armor, or maybe you can play them in heavy too in some instances, like Fire Staff, Flamethrower, heavy is fine. If you play melee, you're fucked, it sucks, don't do it, you're just gimping yourself. It's you have to play perfectly. And if you play perfectly, you will only beat noobs anyway. And it's funny, it's like if you perform at the top level in these specs, you're just gonna get so much hate from all the other specs, it's ridiculous. So yeah, that's about it. Hope you enjoy and hope you all understand the points I'm making. And yep, see you all next time.